So I'm sitting here reading some of you guys' comments on the last video that I did. And let's step off that life story thing, because I can go on and on and on. I got stories for days and days and days. Some of them funny, some of them not funny, some of them serious, some of them stupid, some of them way past stupid. But let me tell you a funny one. So I went to Illinois one time, and I'm gonna buy a car. I don't even remember what car it was. Get up there, car's nothing like the guy said it was. So I didn't end up buying the car, but I had an empty trailer, and I'm bound and determined I'm not pulling an empty trailer home. So I run across this dune buggy for sale on something. I don't remember if it was racing junk or what it was. But this old buggy had been rode hard, put up wet, had a bus motor on it. So they'd been riding it out, had tractor tires on the front, and I don't even remember what it had on the back, but this thing's rough. But I ended up buying this buggy, and I bring it home. So Stacy, this is when Stacy and I just first got together. And she's checking out this buggy, and she goes, "Oh, I think this would be a lot of fun." I said, "This thing needs a lot of work." She said, "Well, I'll help you with it." Understand, guys, back then, Stacy didn't really get her hands dirty. A little bit, but not so much. So we do this buggy together. We tear it all apart. We sandblast it. She helps me paint it. I rebuild the motor. We did everything on this buggy together. We get this buggy done, and up here in Oklahoma, there's a place called Little Sahara, which is sand dunes and all that. So some friends of mine that go up there all the time, I'd never been. They go up there all the time, are over one day, and while I'm finishing this buggy up. Just as I get it all finished and painted and the motor rebuilt and it runs great, and I'm like, cool, we're almost ready to go. Well, they didn't tell me you don't grease the throttle cables or any of that shit. They sit there and watch me do it, that you don't do that when there's sand. So, long story short, I get the buggy all done. We decide we're gonna go to Little Sahara. Now this is in November, Thanksgiving, colder than a well digger's ass. Stacy turns around and goes to the, I guess the Arctic store, and buys this Michelin snowsuit, goggles. I mean, she's going for sub-zero weather, which it was pretty cold. It was cold enough that the next morning the Captain Morgan poured like syrup. That's how cold it was. So we first time I took the buggy out, throttle hung open, had to clean all the cables, or clean all the grease off the cables, because I figured out that grease and sand don't fucking go along. I had to rebuild the carburetor. It was acting up. So I'm working on it for like a day and a half before everybody gets there. And finally decide, okay, we're ready to go. Strap up, jump in the buggy, take off, running across there about 40 mile an hour, 45 mile an hour, and I hear, and I'm like, ah, shit. Push the clutch in. I let it idle down. I don't hear the knock. I let the clutch out, and I take off, run across them dunes. Thinking, this son of a bitch has got a rod knocking in it. So I stop at the top of a hill. I get out. I'm looking at the buggy. I rev it up. Look at the oil pressure. Oil pressure's fine. Shut it off. Pull the dipstick. There's no metallic in it. I'm like, damn, what is this knock? So we jump back in the buggy. Take off across there again. I'm jumping some dunes. We get on the flat spot. I'm like, man, I don't know what I told her, Stacy going, what's the problem? I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know if this thing's gonna kick a rod, what it is. Sounds just like a rod knocking. So I get out of the buggy and I rev it up again, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm checking the oil pressure, and I'm looking over everything, and I'm revving it up, and I'm not hearing no knock. I walk over to Stacy, and she's sitting in the buggy, and she's doing this. Like she's about to pass out. Her face is white. I mean, white. So I tell her, I said, hey, get out of the buggy. What's the matter? What's going on? And she was like, I don't know. I'm lightheaded. Her face was white, guys. I mean, snow white. I'm getting fucking scared. I'm thinking something's happened to her. And I reach up and I pull the helmet off her head, and then I pull the goggles off. And when I pull the goggles off, all of a sudden her face just flushes back up. And she goes, well, I didn't know that you do take a certain amount of oxygen through your eyes. She had her goggles so tight that she couldn't breathe. And you actually do breathe a certain amount of oxygen through your eyes. So it was literally dinging her. About to pass out. So I start laughing about that. And I'm hoorahing her about that. And I grab the helmet, go to put it on her head, and I look at the top of this black helmet. It's got red paint on it. I look at the buggy, happens to be red. I look at the helmet. When we're running across there, her head's hitting the helmet, or the helmet's hitting the bar. That's the knock I'm hearing. Well, that was just one of the funny stories that happened that day. The other thing that happened that day, oh, Stacy gonna let me tell these stories. So when we get back in the buggy, we go back to the fifth wheel, and we're all sitting around there that night. Actually, Stacy's gonna laugh about this one, but a friend of mine, Mike Columbus, is not gonna find this funny. So Mikey, we'd been drinking, of course. Now we weren't drinking out riding around acting like fools. We were sitting around a campfire drinking. It's like 30 degrees or something. And Mikey asked Stacy, he said, hey, now this old Mexican buddy of mine, funny as hell. And he's always cracking jokes. And he's always wanting to bust on Stacy. Well, here's the thing that you guys don't know about Stacy. If you go to bust on her, you better be pretty fucking smart, because she will cut you to the bone in 2 seconds. She is quick with that mouth. And she is slick mouth and can cut you down before you know it. So he's trying to bust on Stacy. Stacy's busting on Mikey. So he goes, hey, I got sand. He goes, you got any lotion? She said, yeah, in the fifth wheel in the bathroom. So he goes in there. Well, I guess he got sand down his pants and his nuts and his ass crack full of sand. So he rubs this lotion all on it. He comes out there. He's standing by the fire, trying to get warm. He gets real close to the fire. Stacy hollers, hey, that lotion's flammable. Mikey jumps back, falls over, rolls up in the sand. Everybody's laughing their asses off. He looks over at me and he said, she got that slick ass shit from you. I said, nope. That's factory equipment right there, I promise you. There's your funny story about Stacy. I got a bunch of them too that you guys will find really, really funny. But there's one.